The day began without warning, quiet, obedient, harmless. The kind of day that hides its cruelty behind sunlight. Ella knelt before the drawer, fingers brushing dust and memories. A tangle of old charges, receipts, coins, the debris of years, too calm to be real.
The house is in her name, Linda's.
Beneath
Funded
it all,
by your account.
her hand found something cold. A black phone, cracked like an old scar.
Is a kind of freedom.
Michael's first phone. The one that had witnessed their beginning. She smiled, faintly, a memory brushing past like a ghost. Then, boredom or fate made her plug it in. The socket hissed. The screen trembled to life. The wallpaper blinked.
Went through my phone.
Her wedding photo. White dress, veiled laughter,
The house is in her name,
his steady
Linda's.
hand.
Funded by your account.
For a moment, she felt that ache of love remembered. But then,
Truth
a single
kind of
notification pulsed on the screen. One message, recovered from the dead. Linda. Her name shone like a blade under light. Ella touched it.
I loved him too.
The first line whispered, "You should have been the bride." The second got deeper. Watching her wear that dress broke me.
through my
Her
phone.
breath slowed. The walls leaned closer.
The house is
Outside,
in her name, Linda's.
a
Funded
crow
by your account.
screamed,
You didn't just
and
cheat.
silence
You
fell
robbed me.
heavy. In the still air of her home, something
Truth
sacred
is a
cracked
kind of
trust,
freedom.
spirit, law. And from that crack, the truth began to crawl. Would you like me to continue to task 2? The confrontation at the cafe approx 700 words, where the
I loved him
betrayal
too.
takes voice and the air itself becomes a courtroom. The cafe was too bright for the kind of truth that waited there.
Went through my phone.
Afternoon light spilled through glass, cutting the air into shards.
The house is in her name,
Ella
Linda's.
chose a
Funded by
corner
your
seat
account.
where
didn't
no
just
one
cheat.
could see the
You robbed
tremor
me.
in her hand. Her scarf covered her hair, her
Truth
face bare
is a
of
kind
color.
of freedom.
She didn't want to look like herself. Not today. Linda arrived 10 minutes late, radiant, untouched by guilt. She wore cream, silk, and gold earrings,
I loved him
tiny
too.
suns catching the light. When she hugged Ella, the scent of coconut oil filled the space between them. The same scent that had lingered
phone.
once on Michael's collar. Ella's throat tightened.
The house is in her name,
Babe,
Linda's.
what's
Funded by
wrong?
your account.
You
Linda
didn't just
asked,
cheat.
her
You
voice
robbed me.
soft, rehearsed. Sit, Ella said.
Truth
Her
is a
tone was a
kind of
knife
freedom.
laid flat on the table. No small talk, no smile. Ella slid the phone across the table like evidence at a trial. The screen still glowed faintly. Messages open, secrets exposed. I found them, she said. For a moment, Linda's eyes didn't move. No shock, no denial. Only alarm blink, like someone caught by dawn after a night of sin. I was hoping you wouldn't. Ella's nails dug into her palm. You stood beside me, Linda. You held my bouquet. You called me sister. I loved him too, Ella, Linda whispered, her voice steady, disturbingly gentle. The sentence landed like a curse. Loved him too. Equal. Not sorry. Not ashamed. Equal. Before you ever met him, Linda continued, eyes glistening. We were together first. You just never knew. A memory flashed Linda helping her choose her wedding dress, laughter echoing in the bridal shop. The betrayal had begun even then, soft and smiling. We broke up, Linda said. He moved on. I accepted it, but it never stopped. We couldn't stop. The world around them hummed with ordinary life, clinking cups, laughter, the hiss of steaming milk. None of it belonged to Ella anymore. She sat inside her own slow explosion. "Do you still see him?" she asked. Silence. Linda's eyes fell to the table. Guilt moved faintly beneath her calm, like something trapped under ice. Ella stood. Her chair scraped the floor, a sound that tore through the cafe like a blade unsheathed. "You looked me in the eye on my wedding day," she said. "You told me I was the luckiest bride. You kissed my child." Her voice didn't rise, but the air around her sharpened. Customers turned, sensing a storm wrapped in politeness. "You helped build this lie," she whispered. "Brick by brick, smile by smile." Linda reached for her hand. Ella pulled away. "I'm not the one who lost her," she said quietly. "You are." She left the cafe before tears could make her weak. The sunlight outside was blinding, merciless. Each step felt like walking away from a grave unmarked. Behind her, Linda sat frozen, surrounded by half-finished conversations, untouched coffee, and the ashes of what she once called love. The lie had been dragged into daylight, and daylight never shows mercy. Ella walked for nearly an hour, her heartbeat loud, rhythmic, like drums from a far-off ritual. Passers-by smiled. She didn't see them. Her mind repeated one truth, the kind that cuts deeper with every breath. My maid of honor held the man who vowed to protect me. By the time she reached home, the house no longer felt like hers. The cushions, the photo frames, the scent of her own kitchen, all tainted. Everything she had built stood on deceit. The marriage bed was a shrine to betrayal. Night would come soon. She would not sleep. The ancestors would not let her, because a sacred law had been broken not by death, but by trust defiled in silence. 2 nights later, the storm arrived, disguised as calm. Michael's car pulled into the compound, its headlights cutting through dusk like twin eyes of an unrepentant god. Ella watched from the kitchen window, her hands still, her heartbeat slow. He stepped out of the car carrying a small bag of toys for their daughter ritual gifts from a guilty man who still believed in normal evenings. He entered humming, smiling, the scent of travel on his shirt. "You look tired," he said, placing a kiss on her cheek. "Have you been resting?" She didn't answer. Her silence was a wound he couldn't see yet. She served his food, rice steaming, stew red as blood. He ate with the rhythm of habit, talking about traffic, a faulty air conditioner, a colleague's laziness. When he was halfway through his meal, she placed the old phone beside his plate. It landed softly, like a whisper from the grave. He froze. His fork halted mid-air. His face didn't change, only his eyes. Small betrayals of fear. He touched the phone slowly, thumb brushing the cracked edge, unlocking it by muscle memory. The messages opened, the past spilling out like rot. "You went through my phone," he said, voice low. "You were never going to tell me," she replied. The room fell into sacred silence. The only sound was the fan, spinning like a dull ritual drum. Then came the defense of the guilty, the same words all betrayers wear like masks. "It's not what you think. Don't insult me," she said, her tone flat, cutting through his plea like a blade through silk. He exhaled, then dropped the pretense. Fine, yes, it happened, but it's over now. Ella laughed once sharp, humorless. Over? The last message was 3 months ago. You bought a house with her. That pierced him. Anger replaced shame. You went through my emails too? You lied for 5 years, she said, standing. I needed to know who I married. He rose as well, pacing, his shadow large and restless against the wall. She was in my life before you. We broke up, yes. But when I saw her again, it stirred things. Stirred things, she repeated, the words tasting like poison. You built a second life with my money. His jaw tightened. I didn't plan it. You think I wanted this? He shouted. I tried to end it. She kept coming back. Ella stepped closer, her voice a whisper sharp enough to draw blood. You let her come back? You held the door open? He stopped pacing. His chest rose and fell with quick breaths. You don't understand, he said. You don't know what it was like. No, she replied softly. I don't, because while I was fighting for us, you were fighting to keep your secrets. The ceiling fan creaked, spinning slow and uneven. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then he said it the one truth no spirit could forgive. I still love her. The words struck like lightning through the heart of the house. The ancestors must have turned their faces away, for in that moment, every vow, every touch, every night of shared laughter became dust. Two added quickly desperate. I love you too. But Ella was no longer listening. She stared at him not as her husband, but as a stranger who had borrowed her trust and returned it broken. Her next words came like a verdict. You love no one. You only fear being alone. She turned, walked to the bedroom, and emerged minutes later with a pillow and her daughter's toy. Where are you going? He asked, his voice cracking. To the room where your lies can't breathe. The guest room door closed with the quiet finality of a coffin lid. The days that followed were a slow, deliberate trial. Michael knocked sometimes soft, apologetic. Other nights, he texted from the living room, words heavy with cowardice. We need to talk, please. Ella never answered. She cooked for her daughter, smiled for her sake, and moved through the house like a spirit walking through old ruins. The silence grew thick, almost holy. Each night she lay awake, hearing his footsteps outside the door, pacing like a man haunted not by ghosts but by himself. The air between them was no longer marriage, it was judgment. In the ancient law of spirit and home, silence is not absence. It is the beginning of justice. The sun rose pale, reluctant, as if it too feared what the day would unveil. Ella stood before her mirror, wrapping her headscarf with trembling fingers. The guest room had become her sanctuary, clean, bare, silent. No perfume of deceit, no memory of Michael's touch. Just the hum of her own breath and the ticking of her resolve. That morning, she didn't wait for him to leave. She stepped out quietly, locking the door behind her. The city pulsed beyond the gate, vendors shouting, horns wailing, life oblivious to the funeral happening inside her chest. She didn't go to work. She went to the lawyer. The woman's office smelled of paper and judgment, files stacked like silent witnesses. Ella spoke slowly, her voice low but firm, each word a confession wrapped in steel. She told her everything. The phone, the messages, the house, the deceit. The lawyer listened without interruption, hands folded, eyes sharp as flint. When Ella finished, she asked one question. "Have you seen the documents for the property?" Ella shook her head. "Just the alert. Joint ownership, his and Linda's." The lawyer frowned. "Let's confirm." She made a call, brisk, professional. Minutes later, she hung up and looked at Ella the way doctors look at someone who doesn't yet know they're bleeding out. "The house isn't in both names," she said. "It's in hers, Linda's. Entirely. Funded by an account under your name." The words hit like a spiritual blow. For a moment, Ella couldn't breathe. The room tilted. "What account?" she whispered. "A joint account. The one you and your husband opened years ago. The funds, 3.5 million, transferred directly, signed by him. Her uncle's inheritance, the money blessed before his death, meant for her daughter's education, her future, her stability. Gone. Used to build another woman's home." The air grew cold. Something ancient stirred inside her, a pain older than love, sharper than betrayal. In African tale law, the inheritance of the bloodline is sacred currency. To misuse it is to wake the spirits of kin, the unseen guardians who protect the living from hunger and curse. Michael had not only betrayed a woman, he had defiled a covenant sealed by the dead. The lawyer's voice returned, distant through Ella's haze. "You can press charges. It's theft and fraud, but I warn you, it will be long, painful." Ella rose slowly. Her eyes had changed. "Pain," she said softly, "has already done its work." The sky was bruised purple when she returned home. The air trembled with a storm that hadn't yet broken. Michael was in the kitchen. Sleeves rolled, cutting vegetables as if peas could be diced and served. He looked up, uncertain. "Can we talk now?" he asked. She said nothing. She placed the printouts from the lawyer on the table, each sheet a mirror of his sins. He glanced down, reading, his face paling. "What's this?" "The house," she said. "The one you built with my money." He froze. The knife slipped from his hand and clattered against the counter. "Ella, I can explain." "Don't," she cut in. "You didn't just cheat on me, Michael. You robbed me, you and her. You took the blood money of my uncle, the one who prayed for our future, and turned it into her walls, her roof, her keys." Her voice trembled, not with weakness but fury. The kind of fury that burns cold, deliberate, ceremonial. He reached for her, but she stepped back. "You used my name," she said. "You used my trust, and you call that love?" Michael's lips parted, then closed. He looked small, suddenly a man collapsing under the weight of his own cowardice. "Where will I go?" he whispered. "Ask your business partner," she replied. "She has a home now, one you paid for with my soul." He tried to speak again, but his voice cracked. His shame filled the room like smoke. He packed that evening clothes folded without care, eyes hollow. Their daughter slept in her small bed, dreaming, unaware that her father's footsteps were a farewell. When the door finally closed behind him, the silence that followed was not emptiness. It was justice. For 3 nights, Ella didn't light the lamps. She sat in the dark, breathing, listening to the walls exhale. The house once defiled was reclaiming itself. The ancestors had received her anger and given her calm. No curse fell upon Michael. None was needed. In African tales, those who steal from blood do not need to be punished. Their names erase themselves. Fortune turns away, love sours, dreams rot in their own sweetness. By the 4th morning, Ella awoke lighter. The air felt clean again. She made breakfast for her daughter, sang softly under her breath. Her hands no longer shook. She had crossed the river and left the ghosts behind. The reckoning had ended, not with violence, but with balance restored. The night Michael left, the rain began. Not violent, just steady, patient, like the sky was rinsing the earth clean. Ella stood by the window. The scent of wet soil rising, thunder low and distant. Each drop felt deliberate, washing away the last trace of his presence. The rooms were hollow, his slippers still by the door, his jacket still hanging behind the chair. Yet, the house breathed easier, as though the walls themselves had been unburdened of a lie they were forced to hold too long. She moved through the silence slowly, every step an act of reclaiming. The kitchen, where he had eaten his last meal, the corridor where his voice used to echo, the bed that had turned to stone. She touched nothing. She simply stood, letting memory unravel and leave. By morning, the world was sharp again, edges clear, colors true. She looked in the mirror and saw someone else, not the wounded wife, not the trusting fool, but a woman sharpened by pain and reborn through truth. 3 months passed. No word from Michael, no messages from Linda, only quiet and the small rhythm of survival. Ella taught classes again. She laughed with her daughter, cooked when she felt like it, prayed when silence grew too heavy. She did not curse. She did not forgive. She simply lived. Sometimes, late at night, she would light a single candle and place her uncle's photograph beside it. The flame's glow danced against the old man's smile. "They spent what you left," she would whisper. "But I've returned what they stole." Because truth, once spoken, restores what gold cannot. One afternoon, at a small roadside restaurant, fate sent her a messenger. The woman was old, wrapped in layers of faded kente cloth. Her eyes were milky but clear enough to see through bone. She sat beside Ella uninvited, ordered tea and studied her face. "You look tired, my dear," she said. Ella smiled politely. "It's been a long season." The old woman tilted her head. "No. You've been crying not with your eyes, but with your spirit." Ella's hand stilled. The stranger's words slid beneath her skin. "You think you've lost something," the woman continued softly. "But you have not. You have only discovered truth. And truth, child, is a kind of freedom most people never earn." For a long moment, Ella said nothing. Then she nodded, slow, trembling. "I wanted to hate them. I still do sometimes." The woman's smile was small, wise, and merciless. Hatred is a chain forged by the guilty. Do not wear what they made. You've been chosen to see clearly that is your punishment and your reward. The wind outside rose, stirring the dust. When Ella looked up again, the woman was gone. Only the half-drunk tea remained, steam curling upward like incense. It felt less like a meeting than a visitation. That night, Ella stood under the open sky.